Gear Tasting Radio is brought to you by Imminent Threat Solutions. ITS provides knowledge that empowers individuals with indispensable skill sets to explore the world and prevail against all threats. Right now, as a special thank you for all podcast listeners, we're offering 10% off in the ITS store. Simply use the code GTR to save 10% at store.itstactical.com. Welcome to Gear Tasting Radio, where we offer an in-depth look into the usage and philosophy behind the equipment in our lives. I am Brian Black, joined by Rob Henderson.
Hello.
On this episode today, we will be talking about Level 2 EDC. So bags, satchels.
All of it.
Any kind of bag.
Yeah.
All the bags. The purpose of this is kind of a continuation of our very first podcast for Gear Tasting Radio, which we went over how to rethink your EDC. And in that podcast, we mentioned kind of a leveling up system. So whereas level 1 are the things that you have on you all the time, like in your pockets, like, for instance, your keys or even a concealed carry weapon, something like that.
Stuff you need right now.
Yep. And this is a continuation because what we said in that episode, too, was that level 1 kind of allows you to get to level 2, which then allows you to get to level 3. And what I mean by that is that the stuff, I like to think of it as the stuff that's in my pockets supports me getting to my bag. So if I don't have my bag on me, because I always carry a bag to and from work. Yep. So if I don't have that, what I have on me should support getting to that bag. And that bag, in addition with what I have in my level 1, should now support me getting to my vehicle. And that would be like a level 3, which we're going to talk about in a future episode too. So today we're just focused on bags and packs and satchels and things like that. Yep, so level 2. What I really want to go over is just kind of an example of what we both carry, just to kind of flesh this out and give people an idea of what those items look like. And, you know, I think that I'm always searching for ways to make things better in what I carry. Yep. So my hope is that us walking through this as a discussion will kind of help people with what they decide to carry too. So I've been through, I have a whole shelf of bags, literally.
I think everybody's got like the doldrums of bags.
Yeah. And I mean, I know people that I'm friends with that have more bags than me, and I'm always really impressed by that. So, I mean, with, you know, everything we've ever reviewed on ITS, I have quite a bit of stuff built up with things that I purchased and, you know, things that we've been told to keep and things like that. So we have quite a good collection here.
Yeah.
You know, and we try to let people use those as they need them too. So through that, I've gotten a pretty good opportunity to explore a lot of different bags, including designing our own bag, which I will try not to pimp too much on here, but it is kind of where I'm going with some of this too, just because that's the way I like to think of carrying individually too, because what I like to think of is modularity. Like, that's a big thing for me. So whenever I'm carrying a bag, whether it's through the airport traveling or whether it's to and from work, I always think modular because I don't like to dig around in bags a lot.
Yeah, I hate just the empty space that you can just like fill with crap.
Nature abhors a vacuum, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, any space will get filled with crap, and you'll be digging through it trying to find something.
And pencils and all sorts of junk.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the synopsis of organization, is that everything has a place, and I try to adhere to that even in my bags as I travel too. So I guess kind of where I'm going with that is that I kind of want to focus on the 3 bags that I've been carrying a lot lately. So I carry a GR1 from GoRuck. I've just started now carrying a Blade 20 from Arc'teryx, based on Kelly getting one and you having one, and just kind of being interested in seeing how that works for me. And I'm fairly brand new to that, so I'd say only a couple weeks into that.
Cool.
That bag.
Awesome.
And, you know, I'll talk about that when we get through it too. And then our discrete messenger bag from ITS that we designed, which is, you know, our messenger bag. So we're talking about kind of 2 backpacks and then a messenger bag. So what would you say you alternate through?
So I originally started with kind of the cheapo messenger bag when I started needing to carry a laptop, and I bought our Gen 2 discrete messenger bag, and I carried that for a long time, and that was a great bag, and it ended up being just a little bit too heavy for me, and I mean, I say that, but then I switched to a saddleback briefcase. That was kind of like, I really liked the look of the saddleback bag, so I wanted to pick one up.
That was all leather, right?
Yeah, it was 8 pounds empty.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So, I mean, once you put a laptop and some other stuff in it, it was just super heavy, and it didn't have the modularity like you're talking about. Everything was kind of open. Leather doesn't really hold pockets and stuff well, so I wasn't able to keep as much stuff. So I saw a guy at REI carrying the Blade backpack, and I kind of like snuck up on him to see what it was, and it was an Arc'teryx bag. So I picked that up, and it's kind of been what I've been carrying for the last, 8 months or so.
Yeah.
So it kind of went from the messenger bag to a backpack.
I've noticed that as I switch back and forth, I like those different style or carry styles depending on the situation.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't always love carrying a backpack, and I don't always love carrying a messenger bag.
Right.
I actually love the ability to move back and forth with them as I need to. And, one of the things that's really helped me out with that is that, to talk a little bit about the messenger bag that we have, what we tried to do in this latest generation is really speak to the modularity aspect. So we created something we call our ITS zip bags. They have handles on either side of the bag, which facilitates opening and closing the zipper on the zip bag. Really nice. It's kind of like a glorified pencil bag, if I had to describe it.
It's like
to those at home that don't know about.
Really nice looking pencil bag.
Yeah, so it's made out of nylon, and we also have canvas versions too. So we have an upgrade basically in the appearance if you want something that looks a little nicer. But we designed those with a purpose in mind. And it was so that you could grab them easily from wherever they are. And we made our messenger bag kind of have these 4 external pockets that are along basically the interior and sides of the bag so that you can put 4 of these different zip bags in there and basically dock them in and out and move them to other bags if you wanted to. And that's what I do. And that's what I really love is that's what I found to be the most useful when I move bags is that I've got my staple stuff that I carry all the time in these zip bags, and I've got 3 of them. So basically, if you look at the messenger bags, like I said, it's got those 4 pockets, and I carry a Nalgene in one of them and then 3 zip bags in the other. And I basically take those zip bags out and move them either to the GR1 or the Blade 20 or something like that. So everything that I've kind of got as those staples moves with the bag changeover, and it makes it a lot easier from that aspect.
Well, and we've got loop fields on the front of them, so you can make your own name tape, or you can buy name tapes for stuff that's in it, and that makes it helpful to me. Or what I've done is I just bought different colors, so I know that the black one's got my cables and chargers and all that stuff, and then the multicam one has a different set of stuff in it. But I find I use those in the Arc'teryx bag I have.
Yeah,
I mean they're
really, and this, really useful. The purpose of the show wasn't just to pimp our stuff, and I'm trying not to do that, but I'm just speaking to the modularity aspect because when you change bags, which I think everybody does at some point, I mean, I don't find that I have one particular style or taste for a bag. I move in and out of different bags all the time, and that depends on the situation. So, or the context of what I'm doing. Is it the airport? Am I traveling? Do I have to put it underneath a seat?
Right.
Am I working with one carry-on bag that I'm taking on a trip?
Right.
So the situation dictates what I'm doing, and I don't feel like one bag fits all in that sense.
Well, and I mean, for me, like if I'm going to an airport, I need a backpack.
Yep.
Because I hate dealing with like one shoulder and like it's moving now that I have to bend. You got to take your shoes off, all that stuff going through TSA. So it's easy to just have a backpack you can keep close to you.
I agree with that, but I actually like the versatility of carrying a messenger bag sometimes in an airport too, because it is easy to get stuff out. But I have TSA pre, and I don't have to take anything out anymore.
Yeah,
so
that's nice.
Which I very much advocate. Spending the $79 and dealing with the time that it takes to get it because it's worth it, in my opinion. Kelly doesn't have hers, and I do. So it's like
she goes
through the long line, and I'm just like, I like it because it's kind of a test to see if I still am getting my value, out of
it's like
getting
when you
TSA
drive a different way home than somebody.
Let's see if I get there first.
It is faster.
And once in a while, she beat me and gloat about it. But, anyway. I was like, well, I didn't have to take off my shoes. But so what I carry on a regular basis, I'll speak kind of first to those zip bags and what I keep in there that makes them so modular. I used to carry a sheet. It's like I don't even know what you call it. I think it's made by Cocoon, or I think that's the name of the company.
You're talking about.
So it's got a bunch of elastic on it, and I used to put all my cables in there, and it was like a card, like an 8.5 by 11 size card. And that was great too, because I could kind of take that in and out, move it to different bags and things like that. But what I always found happens is that things would fall off of that card. Like something would slip out, or I would bump it against something, or something else in the bag would knock something out of there, and I'd just be like, oh.
Well, and just based on its layout, it's just so disorganized when you just get it out, and like you can't, like you put something here, and then the other thing has to go vertical, and then this has, and so it always irked me that I couldn't have everything just
it's
nicely
like a Rubik's Cube every time.
And you have to have like match things. So,
and I did like it. I mean, I ran that for a long time, and then I kind of. What was great about that too is you could see everything. You knew exactly what was on there.
Yep.
Versus digging into a zip bag like I'm advocating now. But I do feel like that having multiple zip bags kind of at least tells me where something's at.
Right.
So it's less time to dig through. And I try to not overstuff those bags anyway. So really I've got 2 zip bags that I carry cables and accessories in. And then the third one is actually where I carry my boo-boo kit. So basically our large first aid kit called the Boo Boo Kit Plus is what I have in one of the zip bags, and that's a red one's for medical. So I've always kind of got that first aid kit element with me in a bag. And I don't use it that often, but when I need it, I really need it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I have it.
It's nice to have those too, because like a Band-Aid is a good thing to have.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to need that more often than you'll need a trauma kit.
Which I carry too. I carry a little EDC kit, but that's kind of outside of the bag. But anyway, so in those, one's kind of an accessory bag and one's kind of my larger cables bag. So that's where I have like the big brick to charge my computer with.
Laptop,
yeah, so like that laptop cable that my MacBook takes.
Gotcha.
I have that full length cable in there because I've needed it sometimes for the extension from a plug.
Yeah.
So I always carry that with me, so I have a charging source for my laptop if I need to. And then obviously smaller cables like USB cables and things like that are kind of in that accessory thing too. And then within that, I've also got kind of, I guess I would refer to it as kind of a mini DOP kit. So like I've got, hand lotion, chapstick, gum, things like that are just kind of my everyday staples that I may need, like
That's
a pair of fingernail clippers,
That's
just
a
the
good idea.
things that I always go, oh man, I wish I had that.
Right.
And I always write it down. I'm like, oh, I need to put that in my bag.
That's a great idea.
Which you can get carried away with, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of my accessory bag. So, and then what I like to think of too, moving more back into the topic of where we started with this, which is, supporting getting to your vehicle. I've talked before about, concealed carrying, but I don't carry a spare mag. My spare mag is in my bag.
Same here.
So that's kind of what I mean by supporting that level of getting to my truck, which I have more in, that type of thing. So, which we'll get into further because that's a cool topic too. I think that'll be a really
and
good
also,
discussion.
like for me, it's situationally dependent. If I have the bag, I'm not as concerned about carrying a spare mag on my person. But if I'm going somewhere that I know I won't be around a bag, I might put a spare mag in my back pocket or something like that, just to kind of have it. And it goes the same for if I need to download something and not be able to carry in a place that it'll go into the bag for kind of off body.
What I've really thought about doing is starting to carry like an ankle wrap just for a spare mag. Because I find I run out of pockets and I don't have a place for a spare mag, and I don't like carrying a mag pouch on my belt. So I've thought about that. I just haven't done it yet. But that's and
with the smaller size of the mags, that would work well.
Yeah, because I carry a Glock 43, which is a smaller profile.
Yeah,
so
that'd be good.
But other things that I have in that bag that aren't in those that modular zip bag type area are I carry things like a charger from like Amazon, like one of those. What do you call those? Like
the battery packs or the power pack.
Yeah, so like you can charge that from a USB or the wall or something, and then you have like you can charge your iPhone a couple of times from that before it's depleted. Yeah, I found myself using that all the time.
I think I gave like $30 for mine.
Yeah,
and
they're super cheap on Amazon.
It's the best money you can spend because you get super anxious whenever your phone's running down, and to be able to just plug it in and have like multiple full charges is great.
Agreed. But I could fit that into one of those zip bags if I had to, but I just don't have it in there. I just have it kind of loose in the bag. And then, I've got things like medical shears, the little EDC trauma kit, which has got a tourniquet and a pack of combat gauze in it. That's the one we do. And then I've also got a spork. I always carry a spork with me.
That's a good idea.
Never know when you got to eat.
That's true. Yep.
Because I have forgotten forks and eating utensils before, and I've always been like, yes, I'm so glad I have that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then I've got pens and pencils and things like that, and I like Blackwing pencils. Have you ever used those?
What's the company?
Blackwing.
That's the actual company?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I've...
They're super
Like
snooty,
artsy?
pencils, but I like them. There's a funny video on YouTube that Mike showed me a long time ago. This guy that artisanal pencil sharpening or something like that. Do you remember that? Yeah,
it's ringing a bell. That's the hipster pencil sharpening.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
And then I also carry like my GTD folders, so like the inbox, outbox, or to home, to work kind of folders.
Yep.
That's kind of like my mobile office that I carry with me. And then I've got my laptop, of course.
And that's kind of how I view the bag.
Yeah.
Is a mobile office.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's my purpose. I mean, I know a lot of people don't kind of think in terms of like mobile office and supporting getting to your vehicle or something like that, but I like that philosophy and the concept, and that's kind of what I adhere to.
Yeah.
Along the way. So what do you carry in your bag?
So I carry pretty much the mobile office type stuff. The only thing I supplement in that is I have a multicam zip bag, and in that I keep one of those MPILs. Because I always view this
signal
as
panel things?
as if I needed to signal somebody if for some reason I were to have gotten lost or something
Yeah.
like that. So also I keep a mini survival kit in there.
Nice.
Just because, I have a bigger survival kit in the vehicle, but if I wasn't able to get to the vehicle, and then
That's
I
a
always,
good idea. I don't
carry
do that.
spares of a lot of stuff. So like I have a spare pair of socks in my bag just because like,
Interesting.
I hate wet feet like with a passion. So
Yeah.
I'd be real quick to change. If it's wintertime, I'll carry gloves and a hat just to have. But yeah, for the most part, it's just cables, laptop, charger, that kind of stuff. I do keep extra notebooks if I were to lose mine. Or so I used to keep a flashlight, but I've actually switched to carrying that on my person now.
Same here.
I keep a EDC kit with the tourniquet, and then a spare mag in the little side pocket of that Arc'teryx bag. So I kind of have the mobile office, and then I just go for like, I would love to carry a survival kit in my pocket all day, but if I'm not able to, then it would go into the bag, and that has pretty much everything you'd need if you were to become lost. Jordan and I had been talking about, especially in the United States, your biggest your biggest enemy in a survival situation is being able to move, because in the United States there's not many places you can get where you can't move to a road or something where there's people to get help. So you need to carry stuff that's going to help you be able to move quickly.
It's a good philosophy. I like that.
Because depending on where the Appalachian Trail, obviously you've got tons of
Appalachian.
Yeah, the Appalachian. There's tons of miles and miles where you don't have human contact. But around here, I might get lost in the woods, but I'm not more than a couple miles walk from wherever I need to go.
And you can always use a handrail, like a power line, and
Exactly.
find your way to civilization.
There's so much civilization around. But I don't have any, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't have any snacks or anything in my bag. So I should probably put something like that in there. And
that's a good point.
To have...
and I don't either. I have that in my truck.
Right.
But not in
And now
that.
See, it's getting us thinking about it.
Yeah, and that's good. That's what I wanted to do. So it got me thinking about a lot of things too, like the survival kit thing. I got that in my truck. But not on me. The socks is interesting too. And especially gloves and a hat.
It all comes down to, like you said, you can overdo it.
Exactly.
Because there are some days when you... And that's where I got to the messenger bag. That's why I stopped carrying our messenger bag, the Gen 2, was it had so much space for stuff. I ended up putting all that stuff. I had a spare AR mag and without an AR, a whole bunch of stuff. And I got to the point where I was having
will throw this
pain.
heavy-ass mag at you.
Exactly. Yeah. So, that's kind of what I've got. And why I switched to... I always try to go as light as possible, and I've actually been looking at moving from that Arc'teryx bag into the GoRuck Bullet, their 10. I've been looking at moving into that just to kind of make it even more lightweight.
I've thought of that too, and I have looked at the Bullet, but it just seems so small to me. It's
Amanda
like a
has
little tiny backpack.
It's very small.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Looking at weight consideration is a big deal too. And that's something I don't really take into consideration. I'm more looking at versatility, modularity, storage space, things like that. I don't really focus on the lightweight nature of that in that particular regard.
I mean, you could always dump stuff if you needed to.
And I am a big proponent of lightweight stuff. Like we talked about that when we were talking about camping. It's, I do focus on that. And I guess I'm more focused on that in my EDC of what's on my person rather than what's in my bag, because I don't know. I guess I look at that as like I've carried a 40-pound pack for days at a time, and I know that I can do it. So I don't really...
And that's what it comes down to. But
that's dumb. That's being stupid, though.
Well, but lightweight means different things to different people.
True.
Because, you may be able to carry a pack farther than I can, so lightweight to you is a little different. And so, like, people, you just need to pick your line of paranoia of, like, I'm going to need this or I'm not going to need this. But
exactly,
having it is better than not having it.
And, that also gets into kind of the bag aspect of, like, bugging out or bugging in or, having something to grab in an emergency. And I don't think that the context of what we're talking about really gets into that per se, and we can come address that in another podcast. But that's kind of another, just along those lines, that's what I started thinking about, like moving with a pack. Like that's kind of the whole bug out scenario, which I hate that word.
Yeah.
I think of more as like a bolt bag, like getting out if you need to. But, just to briefly address that, you're more likely to have to bug in, so to speak, to stay in your house rather than
Anyone that has ever watched like an end of the world movie, look at the freeways that they show, and they're all blocked.
Yeah.
I don't know where you're going.
Yeah. Your whole family better have motorcycles.
Right, exactly. No, and that's interesting too, because something that I've run into is, like, as you put more and more stuff in, I forget what I have in the pack. And so something I've been working on, I haven't done it yet, but I'm creating these little, like, 3x5 cards that have almost like an inventory that I want to laminate and put in the bag, because a lot of times I don't know what's in there, and I don't want to take the time to, especially on larger packs, 3-day packs, crawl through all my stuff. But, like,
you've been working for me too long.
Yeah, man. Exactly. It's like, do I have any ibuprofen? Hold on, I'll look, and see.
That's funny.
So I've thought about doing that.
That's like what Kelly talked about on that Ridiculous Dialogue podcast, and she talked about me being in the Navy and having all those boxes in storage that I had labeled with numbers, and then I had this sheet on a on a clipboard, like a manifest, like box 20 has this.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So I would call her or whatever and say, hey, can you go get something from storage and send it to me? And then she'd have to I'd say
6.
It's in box 19, bottom row. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Well, but I do forget some things are in there, and then I'll go to do something and later, and I'll find that thing and be like, oh, that would have been great to have. I didn't know that I had that in the bag.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about what else I can add to the bag, which, is contrary to kind of what we're talking about. But, I like those little Kel-Tec foldable guns too. Like, I had considered that for a while, but it's just like getting into way too much weight and space, and I just don't think that's necessary. So.
Well, and I think it's always situationally dependent, because in the, my daily commute to the office and back to home, I'm not away from my vehicle for long enough for it to matter. But if I was going to be, then I would definitely consider scaling that up. I mean, you can never be over prepared for a situation like that.
That's true. Yeah. I know we keep coming back to firearms, which, isn't really the focus of, a bag you carry all the time. But, it still does have a lot of connotation to what we're talking about too. So
absolutely.
It's kind of along the lines of the philosophy of what we're discussing.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, level 3, you're now at your vehicle. You have a bigger storage area, obviously, to, kind of hold that kind of stuff.
That's when lightweight doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Agreed.
So.
Yeah. Well, so what else, when you change bags and you're moving from whatever, those different things, do you actually take stuff out or put stuff in?
I try as much as possible to, if I have 2 things of something, I try to get duplicates of everything I can. Obviously, there's a core set of things that moves with me. I'm not going to buy 2 laptops, so I don't have to change laptops. But
you mean like a 2 is 1, 1 is none type
exactly.
of thing? Yeah,
and that way I can also keep it. Like, I have 2 trauma kits, so I have them in different bags, and they don't have to move. But for things like laptop chargers and the laptop and things like that, I have that core set, so I'll kind of open the bag, dump that stuff into it. But for the most part, the little stuff, I try to duplicate as much as possible.
That's a good idea, too, like actually buying multiples and keeping them in those different bags. That way there's not as much to move back and forth.
I hate having a thing in a piece, like a bag or a chest rig or something like that, and then going, oh, I'm gonna have to take that out and bring it with me, and like constantly moving stuff back and forth. But those zip bags are super helpful for that, and I've actually stopped doing as much doubling, because now I can just grab that zip bag and toss it in there, and I don't have to worry about it. As
great
much.
Plan. No, that's a good point. That's something I don't really think about as much anymore either, because I have that kind of modular system.
Right.
But yeah, I can see the benefit of, duplicating some certain things and having them like that, which, is along the lines of like backing up too. That's kind of like a backup with a computer, because I don't, like you said, you don't carry a spare laptop,
Right.
But I don't, because everything's in the cloud and accessible,
Yeah.
and my backups are online as well as manual on a hard drive too. But
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Yeah, so we kind of do have a backup technically, but not an actual functioning one, but definitely enough to get the data that we need.
Yeah. Do you carry a water bottle, like an Nalgene or anything like
I
that?
do. I carry it in my hand. I can put it in the bag if I need to, but kind of my daily thing is I carry it with me.
Yeah.
And then if I'm carrying any kind of backpack that has like a D-ring strap, I'll run a carabiner through that, and I like to just loop a Nalgene onto that.
That's a good idea.
So it just
Yeah.
stays with me because I'm always getting into the water bottle.
Yeah. I typically take my lunch back and forth to work too. And sometimes I'll toss it in my lunch box basically
good.
too. So
I'm also terrified of leaks. Like, and I know like a Nalgene has never come undone on me.
As long as you
to
tighten
leak.
them.
Right.
Yeah.
I've never had one do that, but I'm just always terrified to like put my laptop in with the Nalgene and like have it burst open.
Yeah. I get that way too about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to think if there's anything kind of in the lunchbox aspect that I guess that could create some extra storage space too if you had, certain things you're going to carry in there too. But
Depending on your lunch containers.
true.
But yeah, I do always try
now
to keep...
I'm going down the lunch container
like you said,
rabbit hole.
Well, hey, that's level 2.5.
What else could I put in my lunch?
What could be in your lunch?
Like,
High protein.
Have a shiv hidden in there in my lunchbox. You never know.
Yeah.
Give me your lunch. No, you can't have this lunch.
It's too important. My survival kit's in there.
That would be a place for...
Do you keep any type of tools in your bag?
Let's see. I'm trying to think of... I guess I have my knife, or I'm sorry, like my like in my EDC, I have the little box cutter, the titanium pocket tool. But I think as far as tools go,
because I just remembered I keep a little tiny zip bag, like a little pencil bag, and I have like a flathead screwdriver, a little Phillips screwdriver, and then I have. It's been the most useful thing. They're for watches, and it's a strap changing tool. But it's like a little fork, and it's really small. It's really great for like pushing straps through MOLLE or like anything that you need to just like have a fine little tiny tapping tool or something like that.
Interesting.
So I keep one of those in there.
I guess the closest thing that I have is the little flat head that's on the titanium pocket tool, which I use to tighten the thing on my keychain.
Right.
So I guess that's all I've really needed on a regular basis.
Well,
because
you have a full set in your vehicle, right?
That's what I was going to say.
Like a toolbox.
If I really needed something, I would go to my vehicle. But yeah, I could see the benefit of having something small like that, though. A little.
Every once in a while, you might need it. I honestly don't use the screwdrivers for screws or anything. I use them for like prying and stuff like that.
What you're not supposed to use screwdrivers
exactly.
for.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because I've got this flathead Craftsman screwdriver that I always look at every time I grab. So it's like my go-to screwdriver.
Yeah.
And I'll go to like tighten something, and I'll look at the tip of the blade, and it's got this twist in it because I used it to pry something, and I'm like, God, I shouldn't have done that. And I beat myself up about it every time I use it, but yeah.
Doesn't matter. You're going to grab it the next time you
I know,
pry something.
Exactly.
I've got the same one.
I just need to like put it to the side and not use it.
This is my pry screwdriver.
I always grab it. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
What's your favorite?
All right, thanks for listening to Gear Tasting Radio. As always, use the pound tag Gear Tasting on any social media network. Check out the episode intel, links and descriptions and things like that. Anything we have kind of supporting content from the podcast, go to geartastingradio.com for that kind of stuff. And then, as always, if you'll consider subscribing to the podcast, we greatly appreciate it. Leave a review, rate our podcast, let us know what you think. We love feedback, so
let
definitely
us know what you want to hear.
And then tune in every Tuesday for a new Gear Tasting Radio. Thanks again.